Hello and welcome back to the Humanizing Success podcast. I'm your host, Jake Bennon, and today we are here with Barbara Arnold-Herzer. And I have this little nice description of you here, but I figured, professionals, they have these descriptions, but maybe they describe themselves a little differently. So I was wondering if you could describe yourself a little bit and kind of what you do.
I still want to hear your description, though.
I'll give you mine first. So you might recognize.
I'll riff off that.
Barbara is a registered nurse and founder of WholeFrog. She is a master health practitioner who helps people with inside-out health and has created a system which beautifully blends her medical knowledge, coaching, and healing understanding with effective holistic treatments. Do you know where that's from?
That is nice and short and sweet. It's
from your website.
There you go.
So you did a good job.
Sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
It.
That covers it?
Yeah, that covers it. And yet it sounds kind of like website-y, you know? So people
Makes sense.
Read the website and then they say, but what do you do?
Right.
I get that question a lot.
And we'll get into that. Yeah. We'll get into that. But so the first topic that I like to talk about people with, and it kind of goes along with the name of the podcast, which is Humanizing Success. What do you think of? Let's say you were kind of building a person and you were trying to think about a successful person. What do you picture success as? Kind of what's your definition of success?
You know, it's a real heartfelt thing when I think of that. Like, I know people who are very like low income, and I know people who are extremely high income.
Right.
And so while there is that part of success, there are so many people low income that are like success machines to me.
Sure.
Like they have so much courage, they can create what they want, and they love people. We have a nonprofit that works in inner city areas and low income, and it always brought me to tears to watch moms on welfare that just took care of their kids. They were there because all sorts of different circumstances, but they wanted their kids to read. They wanted them to be successful. They asked for help. They got themselves up and off welfare, but while they were there, they were like, there wasn't a kid there that couldn't show up and they wouldn't feed them breakfast. Like in my neighborhood, it'd be weird, right? If somebody showed up and said, "Hey, can I eat at your house?"
Yeah,
but there, no, everyone had each other's backs, and it was, to me, that's it. That heart, that community, that humanity, that's success. Because if all the money went away and the economy all crashed, that's all that's going to matter is what's your relationship with your neighbor?
Absolutely.
Do they care about you? Do they've got your back?
Yeah.
If there was nothing else, are we going to shoot each other for food, or are we going to...
Yeah, so money aside, there's tons of aspects of success, but I like, and that's kind of the point of this podcast, is to get everyone's different perspective on what success might be for them. And so money aside, it's how you treat people and your relationship with people, it sounded like you were saying.
Another one that has always been important to me that I find through my years is still really important is the willingness and ability to continually grow.
Okay.
Like even my mom, who's suffering with dementia right now, she continually and is willing to grow and look at things different and change.
That's amazing.
It's just, I think that's just like innate and so important to life, true life, like plants budding through the earth. It's the same thing as humans, that we continually grow no matter how old we are.
And I think
no matter what our struggles are.
I think that's honestly like, I'm still very young and trying to figure out life, and something I've realized more recently, because I found myself in these sort of like lazy points, and then I was doing things and then I just felt like down, and whenever I was feeling good, I was growing, I was being productive. And so I feel like just like plants, just like anything that's living, really, we need to be growing, and a good way to do that is self-reflection. And so that's something that I've been working on and trying to get better at. But I think that's honestly huge for just people in general. Like, people forget that you need to grow and you need to, there's no like something I've talked to. Yeah, exactly. I mean, success, a lot of people think of success like, oh, once I get there, that'll be, when I feel successful. But I think true success, and a lot of people within the podcast have spoken about this, is it's not, there's no really end point. It's on a trajectory of growth, and personal, financial, whatever that may be, but just growth in general, I think is, for me, more success.
A course I took through Sci Seminars called The Basic, which was very transformative to me. They said, in actuality, even this, you think of this as stationary, stable. There is no such thing as stable. You're either growing or you're decaying.
Yeah.
And that hit me really hard because I know
So
when
true.
I choose to decay, where I'm scared to be open, I'm scared to take a risk, I can't see my way, so I just go retreat for safety. That's the beginning of death and decay, really.
True.
So I always have that in my thought pattern as when I see someone I think is successful. No matter what their struggles are, they're willing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to talk about maybe where these ideas started. I wanted to bring it back a little bit and give a little background. What were you like as a child? What did that look like when you were younger? Where did this drive come from?
I actually figured that out once because my brother and I were struggling with different things emotionally. And he was like, I don't think of this as coming from our family, but did it? So we started deep diving on some things because my family was amazing. And then like any other family, they had stuff, right?
Sure.
So, but I feel like I got born with an intuition. Like I remember young, always being very tuned in spiritually. Like I'd hear music. My mom would play Christmas music, and I remember thinking, there's more to this than the tree and lights. I always felt like there was more.
Yeah.
And I was always seeking truth from very young. I remember just wanting what's true.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of things little that people probably thought were weird, but I was always like feeling people spiritually, if that makes sense. And I could... So I think part of that was just innate. But there was this really amazing guy. We called him Uncle Peter. And he didn't have any kids.
Yeah.
He and Aunt Marion. And they would always rescue us from the hot Ohio summers and picking weeds and doing all our chores. And they had a boat, and they would take us water skiing. Ooh. Well, he taught me to ski when I was 5. And before that, he got me up like between my dad's arms with my feet on the skis and on my dad's shoulders when I was really little. And I was a swimmer really young. I loved the water.
Always very active.
Yeah, but he taught me to go hold my breath and go under the boat, the scary deep dark water under the lake. And he bragged about me when they got me up for the first time when I was 5, like you could never shake her off. And, the waves would be big and we'd keep going and she would never drop and I could never make her drop. And then I look back and that wasn't true. They always ran out of gas.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to let go, But I think that input, like adults that are amazing like that and so positive in my life, they taught me to be tenacious. They taught me to, they like made a thing about it.
Yeah.
So like I was proud I was tenacious, and I think that's why, because in a lot of ways I was very shy and introvert actually, and not confident. And those were those key people that made something,
instilled that,
and gave me opportunities I wouldn't have had if I was just in my family. They didn't have a boat. We would never have done that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
Do you think of yourself now as more introverted, or has that changed?
I think my father in particular was very, like, you can do anything, and he was in business. He was an architect, and he always encouraged me as I was in school. So I got trained in the polite things to do and how to be socially acceptable and how to shake someone's hand and look in their eyes and present myself and public speak and all that kind of thing. And I was a good student. And but I think I was always had a level of anxiety and introvertness that I overcame. But like what was inside me wasn't that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's been that clash. And
I relate to that a lot. I feel like, especially since I was younger, and it's funny you were talking about like things that your parents or grown-ups like emphasized when you were younger, kind of pushed you in a certain direction. I feel like I was always told I was more of an introvert or more quiet, and I just took that on as my kind of myself.
Interesting.
But I was always, taught the polite things and how to be social, and but I was afraid to I made that me.
Yeah.
And whether that's what I wanted or that's who I was or not. And I am more quiet and I like to listen more, but lately I've been trying to kind of break out of that. And, you don't have to be introverted all the time and you don't have to be extroverted all the time, but I'm just trying to find my balance. So I relate to that a lot.
Knowing where your set point, especially with introversion, I found is important because it's important for me to have alone time and have quiet time, be in nature, be away from a bunch of people. And I didn't know that. And once I knew that and make sure I have that time, it makes my vision, my ability to be with people is much more balanced, much more grounded when I have that time for myself. I was thinking about something you said, though. Oh, this is cool. I learned this later in life, but that when we're kids, we're like this cup open, like to whatever comes in. We don't have that filter yet.
Yeah.
And so that's a cool thing, like how you're saying how we just absorb
describes it perfectly.
Yeah. But the fun part is once you know that and you know what got put in and programmed in, now we can play with it.
True.
And having the courage to do that. I'm finding at 62, I'm having challenges in that. Because I'm like, well, am I too old to take that risk?
Yeah.
Well, everyone knows me like this. If I come out like this, they're going to think that's weird. But I've done some
it never really
kind of
ends.
silly fun things. Like someone said, you never act like you're like when I was single, they said, you never act single.
Yeah.
You always act like you're off the table. They were like, yeah. So I said, well, what does that look like? And they go, well, like girls that are out there on the market, they swing their hips a little more. They dress a certain way. So I was like, that's dumb. But I played with it one time. I was at Home Depot and I just like walked like that.
Yeah.
And like guys were like hitting on me.
Way.
It was like, whoa. So it's fun to play with little fun things and get out of your comfort zone. And
absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's crazy. So now you deal with healing people. At what point in your life did you realize that was kind of the direction you wanted to go, or maybe a passion you had?
When someone says healing people, I like recoil a little, just so I want to frame that. I feel like I facilitate people to heal.
Okay. Meaning they do it themselves.
But there's a difference, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that difference has always been important to me. So young, I think I just always was interacting with people and I could feel their pain and care about that and teach them things that I had learned spiritually that helped. I remember hearing kids say, I hate you or stuff like that. And I was like, no, you don't. Like, let's look at it different,
Yeah.
So I think that was always there. But then I became an engineer and scientist and nurse and just all this like brainy stuff. Yeah. Started a business, did things. But it wasn't until I started doing body work. And I had gone through a really rough marriage and a lot of trauma and for a lot of years. And so my healing through that was a big deal. It took a while. And I remember the first time someone touched my body in a massage setting.
Yeah.
And they recoiled. And I cried because I felt ugly and unlovable and yucky and she felt it. And then I remember when she put her hands back on me in love and I could feel the difference. And it was the beginning of a healing for me. And then I started learning. The brainy side of me said, what did she was doing some trigger point work. And I was like, why did that work? Doctors, all this stuff hasn't worked. I was told at one point I was permanently disabled and would be in pain the rest of my life and had lupus and all these scary things and incurable diseases. And so my story has been not to go the medical route and to be completely free of all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I started working on people, when I became a massage therapist, I could feel things. Like I'd just have my hands over their body and I'd know things. Like I didn't know what, but it would affect me emotionally. And when I'd ask, I remember the first time there was someone in my house, a carpenter, and his back was killing him. And I said, well, just go on the couch for a minute. I think I can help. And I just started to put my hands towards him and I started to cry. And I said, what is this?
Yeah.
Like in this area. And he started to cry and he undone his shirt and it was all burns. And he said, it's my biggest fear in life. I was burned really badly as a child.
Wow.
And so things like that started happening. And then I would just start, I had more and more of a knowing where I would know that was the case. I didn't have to ask. And that scared me, to tell you the truth. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be looked at as a guru. I didn't want people trusting me over themselves. That was really important. I wanted to teach them how the body works, how the mind works, how God heals, how I wanted to help facilitate that, but I wanted them to have their own confidence in them, their own intuition. So I fought it for a long time. I said no. And then all these weird people started entering my life. Not they weren't weird, but it was weird that they would interact with me.
Sure.
I had a pastor say, "Why don't you take a spiritual test, spiritual gifts test?" And I thought, really? Because it wasn't like a gifty kind of church that it was like usually they don't talk about things like that. And it kept coming up healer. And then other people they would talk about healing. I was like, no. And finally I just surrendered and said, God, if this is the path for me, I need you to show me, because I don't want to be weird. Yeah. I just want to know what's true and help facilitate people not being stuck in their body and being able to, do their purpose on the planet. And that month, every single person that walked in the door at the clinic, the minute they walked in the room, they would say, you're a healer, don't you? You have a white aura around you. And
just got chills.
They just kept saying it over and over. And by the end of the month, they said, okay, but you're going to have to show me, because I'm out of my skin. It doesn't feel comfortable. So.
Wow.
So I've had to learn to put that ego, I call it ego, aside, that fear of being wrong, fear of guiding someone the wrong way, fear of them idolizing me instead of knowing that's all within them, and just be willing to be a channel. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like many people, including myself, have these things that we feel we maybe should be doing, or directions that we're being put in, but we have these ideas or these societal ideas or pressures that push us in a different direction, or we ignore, and some people come back to it, but I feel like oftentimes many people miss that and for the rest of their lives. And so I don't know what mine will be, but so far this whole podcast thing kind of came out of nowhere and has been working somehow. And I've gotten, every time I've done this, I've had these incredible conversations with people like you, and I learned things about people that people are way more relatable than you think. Everyone's going through very similar things, right, even though you think you're the only person.
Right.
And it's just been like an incredible experience. So whether this is the thing or not, I think it's leading me to somewhere that I need to be. So hearing that from you, and we've had we've done a couple things, but more of a surface level relationship. So I'm glad that we had a chance to sit down and hear this, and I got a chance to hear this from you, and I think some other people will relate to this. So
just keep following that passion. I love that you called it a passion project, because that's key.
Yeah.
At least I've found. And the times I haven't followed it and tried to do the safe thing or the financially,
right.
It's not that you be financially irresponsible, but it seems like it always works when you stay in alignment with who you are, that you give yourself the self-care, instead of like, I tend to work really hard. I got trained to do that first. You work hard, then maybe you get a little bit of pleasure if you're really good and you're not really that good, kind of thing. So I found I was always overworking. And when I learned to not, miracles happen. I mean, it was just night and day. I can't even tell you. It's crazy. So keep going.
I will.
I'm excited for you.
I will. Thank you. So speaking of something you just spoke about, how do you know when you need time for yourself? People talk about work-life balance all the time. Do you have a set schedule that works for you, or do you play by ear and know, okay, I need a break now?
I do have a set schedule that I know really works, especially lately. I would say being older rather than just young, being able to run around and do everything and be like ultimate strength and ultimate this and do all-nighters and stuff like that in college. I still do those occasionally when it's important, but I've now know the importance of sleep. I didn't really believe it. I thought it was a waste of time.
Sure.
Like, I'd rather be doing stuff.
Yeah.
So I I just know how I feel because I've given myself that opportunity of getting 9 hours of sleep consistently, not at weird times, but early before midnight hours, earlier, and getting, because I love to get up early and be up before sunrise. So I just know that having that quiet time before nobody can get to me, like even the East Coast isn't going to get to me, is like, there's magic in that time for me. Being in nature is absolutely transformative and necessary for me. I have Native American Indian in me and my tribe is the true fire keepers. So I know fire, the element of fire is important to me to touch. The element of water is incredibly, when I need a break where I can feel stress, to get in a hot tub, get in the shower, get in a lake, get in a river, just is instant restore. When I'm in Hawaii, I get up really early and I go under the water so I can hear the dolphins and the whales talking to each other. It's like it could make me cry right now. It's just like really connecting. So it's long-term coming. I'm not great at it, but I want to be great at it.
Sure.
And
amazing.
I test a lot. I'm a scientist at heart.
Yeah.
So I like literally the sleep thing. When I learned that you have 40% weight gain with not sleeping correct hours and what it can do to your kidneys and different things, I literally would weigh myself through the night, through the day,
just test
drinking certain things, sleeping, like, okay, what if I just do it with water and I don't, so I just set up all these experiments because I teach people.
Right.
So I have to put it through my body first. Yeah.
Before you were doing or teaching maybe what you were right now, I guess right before you accepted maybe the gift that you have, what were you doing at that time before you started to get into massage therapy?
I was a nurse.
Okay.
And before that, I was an engineer. And in the middle there, when my kids were little, I started and ran a daycare center for the kids in my neighborhood. And then I started Boys and Girls Club in Moore Park.
Very nice.
And
that was the before.
Yeah.
And so now we're here. Since you've accepted kind of what maybe the role you play in people's lives or helping people to heal themselves, what has been maybe the biggest eye-opener that people may be missing in their daily lives that they could be doing on a daily basis that would help them the most, I guess?
I think that self-care piece, to go back to that, is what I hear from my clients the most and what I see people tripping on, including myself. I mean, the reason I know it so well is I fail at it almost on a daily basis. And I'm really having to reteach myself because my programming is so strong, be about other people, be about working hard, be about all this stuff, right? So if you can... And the other hard part about that is most people can't even tap into what they actually desire and what they want. The ones who have that, they're good. Yeah. They just follow their desires and it works. But a lot of people have been damaged and hurt and taught that's not okay. You're not worthy of that. And so they've shut that down for a really long time. And that was my case. So learning I do little fun things. The minute I feel a little off, I stop and do something fun to always have joy. And reset, it's 30 seconds. I'm talking about a 3 to 30 second reset. If I have time for more, I do it. And then I notice when I start to feel guilty by having pleasure or by doing something for myself. Yeah. Like it's really, really hard for me to charge what I do because it's like I would do it for free.
Right.
And yet I have to live, and I know that's the way our society operates, right? So like it's really hard. Like literally the first years when I worked, like if I would charge someone, I'd go in the back and want to throw up.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I didn't have a front desk. As soon as I had a front desk, I would hear them say, do you want, this is how much it is. And would you like to do a gratuity or something like that? And I'd go back and I'd be like, I had to get out. Like,
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. And that's when I started realizing I had anxiety in me and that I had unworthiness programs. So I think that's the biggest one that holds people back, that I see over and over. I see people suffering in so much massive pain. They have money, they have freedom, they don't even, the ones I'm thinking about right now don't have to work, but they will not take care of themselves. because it's so innate that they're not worthy. They'll take care of their grandkids, they'll take care of their kids, they'll take care of everybody around comes first, but they come out of their skin if they're doing them. So that's my biggest practice right now. It's learning, like experimenting with that.
Yeah. And what do you think the first step in that journey to realizing that or working on that is? I mean, it sounds like a lot of people don't even know that this is...
A lot of people don't understand how the mind works, and they don't understand how early programming, or those first 5 years, like how all of our beliefs about ourselves and the world kind of get very, like 95% of them formulated.
Right.
So we're on automatic pilot, like a computer, like just automatically does things, and we don't even know. We're just reacting to what someone said over here, what traffic did over here, what the fridge says. We see something in the fridge, and what we eat or don't eat, what we are willing to learn, have direction on or not direction on, what we're open to, what we're not. It's all biased, and we're set up from early.
Yeah.
So unlearning those, that's why I love personal and professional growth work so much. I mentioned size seminars. That's where I've done a lot of mine.
Yeah.
Because they're so systematic. They have these amazing experiences that you never forget. And each experience, you learn how you're programmed, and you learn you have choice, and get rid of the shame, blame, guilt. Because, by the way, it's the lowest vibration on the planet. Like, it sucks people down when you're in shame, blame, guilt around you, as well as yourself. Like, you literally can't grow. You can't succeed when you're in shame, blame, and guilt. That's, if we just did nothing but that fact, because it's measurable, they've measured it now. There's a great book called Power versus Force that David Hawking put out. And it was just like amazing. Like, you see all the different emotional levels and truth levels literally measured.
Really?
And so you can see the effect it has. If you think about it, that's why avatars and people like Jesus and Gandhi and those guys, they could have effect. Like, think of Jesus. There was no microphones back then, but he'd have all these crowds. They couldn't even hear him. Right? Or somehow, like, unless he was in a canyon or something and it reverberated. Right? But they'd go out and have no food and they'd follow. But, like, why does that effect still last? Because the high vibration of love is what that book puts out. And it measures it and explains it. And you list other people in history why they can have such an effect. So learning those, like how we actually work. Yeah. And having transformational experiences, like in personal, professional growth seminars, where you are literally, you're not just learning about something, you're in it. You're doing an experience, and all of a sudden you go, oh, this is what I'm experiencing. The guy next to me is in the exact same thing. Right. And I'm sitting here feeling insecure, and he's feeling exhilarated. Yeah. So what was that? And learning about that and learning how to switch it brings hope to the planet. Absolutely. And freedom.
So I read on your website that you also do life coaching and business coaching.
That's one of my greatest joys.
Really? So I wanted to I didn't really know that. So I wanted to hear about, when did that start? When did you start doing that? And maybe what sort of maybe there's a story or something that really, when you started doing it, was like, okay, this is something I need to continue doing.
Yeah. So as a little kid, I was always doing it just doing it. And then I think when I was a construction management engineer for Fluor Corporation down in Irvine, I would, in fact, the engineers used to always go, "You're weird. You act like the secretaries rather than an engineer." And I was like, "Thank you, I think." But I realized that when I was having, this is a key to the other question you said. I started noticing what gave me joy in my day, and it wasn't doing my cost and scheduling engineering. Yeah, and it was people. I was loving talking to my coworkers and where they were having struggles and counseling them. Mm-hmm. Not that I want to be a counselor, but it was just kind of how it was coming out. And I would notice when things weren't working, like the company was making international decisions based on a report that nobody knew what they were putting into. It was complicated and they didn't get it, so they were just kind of half-assing it, putting stuff in. And so I asked management if I could troubleshoot it. And so I got to revamp the whole the whole report. And
Oh,
that was
wow.
back when we didn't have PCs. We had big mainframes, and I had to talk to all the people, listen to them,
Yeah.
find out and make things efficient. I got really excited about that. Right. And, but a year in, I realized I feel like I'm wasting my life putting concrete in the world. And so I had to have this moment with myself, like, well, am I going to keep going because it pays well?
Yeah.
And so I decided to quit. And that was the turning point, because I realized I had more joy in working with the people than, and maybe they would have found a way, but my solution was quitting at that point.
Yeah.
And going and being without and going and searching, like finding. And I'll always remember the conversation with my boss, though, because he said, he offered to helicopter me in because the commute was big. And I wish, that's the only regret. I'm like, I wish I'd done that a couple times.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I didn't think that was,
That sounds
realize that
pretty
was a
cool.
thing, you
Yeah.
know, like, but he teared up and he said, I wish I'd followed my passion, because I wanted to work with kids, but then I started making too much money for me to leave. And so he let me go.
I feel like
with
it's
his
a very
blessing.
common story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you quit, but you didn't have the answers yet.
Took a big risk.
Yeah.
Went to Moore Park.
Moore Park College?
We moved.
Okay.
We were living in Torrance at the time, and we moved
Gotcha.
out to Moore Park. It was at Hicktown.
Yeah.
Horses on High Street, sheep and shepherds, the fields behind.
A little while ago,
Yeah, it was great. I loved it, but excuse me, didn't have work.
Gotcha.
And so that's when I reached out, doing a minimum wage job that's just looked fun with the rec department at a park.
Nice.
And they're like, you're way overqualified. I said, just let me do it. It'll be fun. You could have 8 kids,
Yeah.
$6.82, I think,
Wow.
an hour. And I'm like, I just want to get to know my community. And it turned out 100 kids showed up with lunches for all day. There was such a need.
Wow.
And it was good I was there,
Yeah.
because I had organization skills and could run it, and it was crazy. It was
Wow.
nutso, but yeah.
Did you have any?
You get guided when you're in your,
Yeah.
when you follow your heart. It's just an amazing adventure. I
Things
find
start working
always.
out.
Like even when I started the massage, here I am. I'm an RN.
Yeah.
Right. But I was an injured RN at that point. That's when I
Okay.
started learning about massage, because I got the help. And
RN is registered nurse.
registered nurse. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no.
And working in a hospital, single parent,
Yeah.
3 kids, like a lot of stress.
Oh, yeah.
Learning, recovering from my divorce and life before that. And all of a sudden it was like, it's time to move. It's time to quit. You're working in a toxic environment. It's not where you belong. And I just did. And it was so freeing. And then I came home and I was like, okay, now what? And I still don't know how this happened.
Yeah.
But somehow I called a realtor and started looking around, and that's how I found my first place. But it was totally random. I can't even imagine myself knowing to call a realtor that does business real estate.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was going to do. All I knew was I was going to do something. I felt inside I was supposed to have my own business, and that it would be something that was so true that people could count on it, and I would know it really well, but I didn't know what it was yet. No clue.
Yeah.
And literally she took me, we saw things, we couldn't find anything that looked like anything I would need. And I saw this cute little place that had purple walls and plaid floors, and I just thought it was cute, and I looked, and I went and asked the gym next door what that space was, and they said, did my boss just call you? Because I told him what I did and what I was kind of thinking of.
Yeah.
And he goes, I just got off the phone saying I need someone who does this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
And you can have it for free
Wow.
until you start making money, because we haven't used it in a while.
That's incredible.
So when you're willing to, like
One intuition at a time.
yeah.
What do you think? We were talking about this isn't a foreign thing. People go through this every day and are struggling to find what they're meant to do. What do you think holds people back from listening to that voice or intuition?
Our programs, early programs.
As a child, more?
Even it still does for me. I'm just more aware of them now. Like you talked about, like, this is fun for you,
Yeah.
I used to be able to watch people rehearsing for plays and stuff, but I was introvert, so I never wanted to try out, and I had a big ugly program.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't be on stage, right?
Yeah.
But I could see how it could be really cool, and I wanted to direct it really badly. But didn't fit my...
Previous ideas of yourself.
yeah, totally. And so I never had the guts to get up there and do it.
Wow.
So I love hearing people's stories and where they got courage and where they switched. And yeah. So I'm working on that now. Like, that's why I don't only life coach. I love life coaching.
Yeah. What percent?
And it started when we were on the table. I started doing it with people on the table.
Okay,
and then
gotcha.
My professional internal judger was like, you can't be a jack of all trades. You can't be a massage therapist, which I already had judgment on because I was an engineer, then a nurse, and now I'm a massage therapist.
Yeah.
Like, my parents were like, what do we pay for? What was that education? Right. And, I see it, but I'm always judging what I think other people are going to see,
Totally.
And so I'm like, I can't do that and life coach. But I just do it now, and I'm happy with it. But it took a minute until I was grounded in that. And
absolutely,
it's just this added benefit that people get.
What percent of your... Do you have like a...
But by the way...
Yeah.
I'm not there, not even close, because like Bob Proctor was one of my mentors before he passed away.
Okay.
And I had ideas that would make people millions. And I helped people change their businesses and their lives, and they made millions. And he said, how much did you charge for that? And I didn't. Massage. Included it while they were here.
Right.
And I said, I struggle with that. And he said, you're still stuck in your unworthiness. And I know where it came from. Like, I remember like mom teaching me to budget and like giving me this little dinky allowance, and I had to give, like, I'd get 60 cents and I had to put a quarter into church, and then she'd put another quarter to match my quarter to go to church.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and then I had a dime for me, right? So what does that teach a kid, right?
Yeah.
You give it all away. And she would call me selfish a lot. Now, I love her, and she was an amazing mom in so many other ways.
Yeah,
but
of course.
And I've done that with my kids. I've said things and just comments that I thought were true, and they've stuck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm so aware of it now, and you can't take
in
that stuff
them now?
back. Yeah. You can see, or we've had, they've had hurts, and we've had conversations like, I can't believe you ever said that to me, and I'm like broken about it, So our words are powerful, our love or not love is powerful, and learning how to work from a place of love and vision and passion instead of fear and shrinking.
But do you think it's a
moment by moment
exercise
for me?
But do you
anyway.
think it's anyone else's? Because not everyone is family, and people are going to say things around you that, especially when you're younger, you might not realize that your mind holds on to it or something like that. Do you think it's other people's responsibility or yourself in a way to go back and work on it yourself?
Always us.
Yeah.
Always us. I mean, when we're little open cups, then that's it's a hard one. I always hold people capable no matter what, because I had extremely brilliant kids.
Yeah.
As you all kids are, right?
Yeah.
They were my teachers. I remember Ben at 2, 3, and 4 knowing things and creating games to help our family be better. And it's
Absolutely.
like if you give kids a chance and listen to them, they're just amazing what they say. So they're close to source for a while, but once they get to that age of accountability where they're running the show, then it's on them, but I think it'd be great if our schools help teach us that how our minds work.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much science and data on it now. And then we get to go, that was somebody else's program. That doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to change it.
Yeah.
Or, like I've had to do that. Lisa Nichols once, and her partner that she worked with, I'll never forget it. She said, I just took your head off, and can I backtrack that and start over, And my husband's great. He'll that isn't what I wanted to create with us. Can we do a do-over, And it's just so humble and beautiful.
But that's okay.
And then then you can move forward from there.
Yeah.
Me, I have a hard time doing that sometimes. It's like, just apologize without the story of why it was, because there was so much wound, there was so much shame and blame.
Yeah.
Early that so when you have people in your life that it's hard for them to apologize, have compassion. It's not that they don't care. It's like they've been wounded in that area, and
so
there's so many layers. I
mean, I think for yourself it's important, but also just when you were saying it now, I was thinking like, you know, there's other people in my life who have maybe struggled with that, and having that perspective allows you to not look at them as like terrible people
or deficient. And
right.
Everyone's doing the best they can.
Right.
And rare exceptions. I mean,
right,
every
right.
once in a while, someone just knows they're being a, you know what?
Sure.
You know, and, but.
I heard someone say once, whenever they were talking specifically about like when someone cut them off in traffic or something like that, or didn't know how to drive properly or whatever, they were like, well, if you just thought like if you had every single life experience that they had, you'd be doing the exact same thing.
Exactly.
So
super helpful.
Yeah. And I think it, you know, if you go around the world worrying about every single thing that everyone's doing and every mistake that everyone's doing, then, you know, it affects you at the end of the day. So
yeah. Yeah. I try to, one of my mentors taught me to have 30 minutes every day to do forgiveness work, and a day every month, a full day. And her work was amazing. She had 4 steps to follow, and I had followed all of them, I thought, and I was in the beach. I was like, okay, well, what am I missing? Because something's not happening right. And it was like, you're not doing your forgiveness work. And I'm like, but I'm a forgiving person. I don't hold grudges, blah, blah, blah. And I got quiet and asked, and it was like, you have never forgiven yourself for the mistakes you made with your children. Still cry about it.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing. Hardest thing.
Yeah.
But in that day, I worked to forgive myself specifically for how I treated my oldest son in a specific instance. And I could feel what he had felt.
Yeah.
And when I got done with that moment, he called. And we arranged to be able to talk.
Yeah.
And there's just something bigger than us at play, and that balances the world out. You know, I just see it over and over again. And if we participate in that matrix of love, and every time we shift higher, then everyone else can come up, you know.
Absolutely.
But it's work.
Yeah, and
it's a beautiful work, but it's
especially when, I mean, I can't speak about parenting or anything like that, but I'm thinking about when I will be a parent, and you speaking about this, it's like, you know, you want to be the perfect parent, but at the end of the day, I feel like you just hope that your kids are strong enough to deal with those problems that you've even created for themselves.
And be willing to communicate about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And forgive about it. And
yeah. Because you can't
start over about
perfect.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then speaking about like things that maybe seem like coincidences, but I like have started recently having some of those, and even just the other day I was, I don't have too much money to my name right now. You know, I just got back to the country. I'm figuring things out, and so I had gotten some cash for some like house sitting job I had gotten, and I was going to the bank, and I saw this homeless person on the side of the bank, and it was like I was putting in maybe like $80, and they were all in 20s, and I was like, well, I can't give a homeless person a 20, but I want to help out. So I ended up trying to put everything in, or no, sorry, there was one of the 20s was broken into 10 and 2 5s. And I was like, at the time I was like, 5's like kind of a lot, like I kind of need it. And so I go to put in the money, and guess what gets rejected? A 5. A 5 gets rejected. It's the bill's perfectly fine.
Right.
I don't even think about putting it back. If it says like money not accepted, take it back. It's just 1 5. And I'm like, all right, this is like, come on.
Right.
So I go and give it. She doesn't even look at me. You know, she doesn't, like she's doing like some crossword puzzle or whatever. I walk up to her and I'm like, hey, do you need some help? And she just puts out her hand. And you know, when you give something to someone, you're expecting like, oh, thank you or whatever. Right. But I was like, that's just how it's going to be. You know, it's not, I'm doing this for the reaction. Like I need to be doing this for myself and for, you know, a higher purpose. So little things like that have started to happen, and it's weird. It's weird.
Keep a journal of them.
Yeah, I
Buckminster
should.
Fuller, who was the kind of a genius at the turn of the century and changed a lot of things in the world, he kept track of all those things, and he would give away all of his money every day because he knew, because of those things, that he was connected to source, and it's how he proved it every day.
Wow.
And he's such a very wealthy man. His family wasn't super happy about him giving away everything, but he always knew. It was incredible. When I was your age, I went to Boston. I loved to travel, and I would just I was following my heart all the time. It was just natural for me. So I try to tap back into that when I get stuck. And I had like $20 and maybe something else, but I don't think so. And I'd gone to a church, and I felt guided to give everything. Yeah. And I had a hotel room to stay in, but that was it. No money, no credit cards back then, no nothing, right? And I had to be there another week. So I come out, and there's this little kid, and I loved little kids. So I no parents around, so I just made sure he was safe and tried to find the parents. Finally found the parents. He was like 2. And they met me, and they were like, just thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. And they go, you would by any chance be available to babysit? Because we're going to be here the whole week too. And we could use some help. So they ended up feeding me every night, taking me out to really cool restaurants, showing me all around Boston, which I wouldn't have had because I didn't have any wheels or nothing. And then I would babysit in exchange for them getting freedom to go out. They took me to like Broadway stuff. I mean, it was crazy. And then the craziest part was, it turns out they were the owners of this really cool camp in Colorado that my boyfriend, I had gotten him a job working there, and that we had gone as kids. It was like nuts.
What a coincidence.
It was so crazy.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can try to explain away all these things that happen, but it's too much.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just kind of trust my gut more with that kind of stuff. And like you said, it's really, especially in the last 4 or 5 months since I've been back in the country, I've really been struggling with that. And, I have this push to get a 9-to-5 and get some stability, but then half of me wants to go to Asia and just travel and live there and go with my girlfriend or whatever. But
no better time.
Once
you start making money, it's harder to walk away from it.
That's what I've been, the thought that goes through my head every time. It's like, no better time, and then I don't do it. So, but yeah, it's a constant struggle, I feel like, and the fact that you're talking about it now, and you have a couple more years, just a few more years than me, and it's still something, you're experiencing. So it's amazing.
That's probably my favorite thing, is to hear people's stories where they take off like that and go, so courageous.
Yeah.
So courageous.
I think I kind of have to. So the final question.
And have people around in your life that ask you if you've done it.
Yeah.
And encourage you to do it too. Because, and same thing with hooking up and getting married to somebody. Yeah. Know who you're getting married to. Like, my husband gives me complete freedom. He misses me sometimes, but it's really facilitated me being able to actually grow easily. If I had someone who was clamping down all the time, it'd be hard.
So there's enough space to be your own and do your own thing. But
making sure who you're married.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just made me think about a whole bunch of things there. But so the final question that I usually like to ask people, and I think I've gotten a lot of great responses about, is, what do you consider your greatest success so far in life?
Oh man, how do you even do that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to answer it this way, and this is a little personal.
Sure.
I'm proud of a lot of things, like keeping everybody employed during COVID and fighting to do things the right way. But at this point, I feel like I'm not a successful person until my middle son and I and his wife and their kids are able to be in a relationship, because that relationship's been broken.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So my constant question is, how do I need to be for that to be? And I'm old enough to know that it's not always something I can control.
Sure.
Or that will necessarily happen. But I know as long as I have anything, any barriers, any fears, anything in the way.
Yeah. So you do everything and anything you can on your part, and then leave the rest to.
And there's almost always more to do.
Yeah.
I think my ego wants to say I've done everything I can, but I know there's more, and I know where that fear place is.
And are you proud? Are you proud of yourself so far in your life? Of maybe not everything, but do you find pride in the things you've done?
I didn't used to, because I got taught that was conceited and not cool.
Yeah.
And I had to learn. And so that was a beautiful journey. The first time I could really say, I'm happy with this.
Yeah.
The word pride and proud was kind of a hard one for me. But
yeah.
I feel really, and now I can say I feel really proud of this thing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Or this result, or this relationship, or whatever it is. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I like to do here is a little word association. So I have 5 or 6 words, and then you give 1 or 2 words. If you go more, it's okay. Yeah, no one's.
So I'm supposed to say one word after you say one word?
Yeah, whatever comes to your mind first.
Oh, okay.
Human body.
Hands.
Okay. Habit.
Discipline.
Happiness.
A dumb word.
Profession.
Oh. Well, what came to mind was more than one word, but it was like a plastic society that puts values, hierarchy.
Mm-hmm. You can explain it if you want.
Yeah, just that puts a hierarchy and puts barriers between people.
Okay. I like that.
Came up from me.
And the last one would be fascia.
That's my favorite word on the planet.
I know. We didn't exactly get to it. Hopefully we'll do another one, but I think we talked about a lot of important things.
It's the answer to all things pain.
Yeah, I had to throw it in there.
Never be in pain. Yeah. The answer is always fascia.
Okay, perfect. So that's about it. I wanted to thank you so much for being here and being so open. I learned so many things from you and about you, and so I'm hoping a little while we can do another one and talk more about maybe fascia or whatever you would like to. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I had a great conversation, and I guess I'll open it up. Where would you want people to find you at?
Oh, like how to actually reach physically?
Yeah, if they wanted to
www.wholefrog.com, that kind of thing. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, our website's wholefrog.com.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah.
Amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching. We've had a lot of support lately, and so I can't thank you guys enough. If you found any value in this video, please like and subscribe. It helps us out. And check us out on other social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok. We upload short clips there if that's more applicable for you. But just like to go out and say, stay delusional, because success comes when you least expect it.
That's a great.
Thank you.
It always becomes delusional. So awesome.
No, you kind of have to be.
You do to do what you're here to do.
Exactly. I just thought it fit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.